get the meeting started. All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful January day, despite what I said initially in the email that went out. So thank you all for proofreading me on that. That's what I get for copying and pasting. But just go ahead and dive in. Looks like we do, like I said, have a quorum. So we will go ahead and get started. First item on the agenda is the approval of the December minutes. I can get those pulled up if anybody has any questions or wants to go over anything. Should be on your screen now. And you should have also received those roughly this time last week as well. So just slowly scrolling through here. Anything in particular sticking out to anyone?
No. Looks good to me.
All right. Is that a motion then?
Sure.
All right. An enthusiastic motion by Mike for the approval. Randy seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That sounds good. All right. Well, then, with that being said, let's move on to the next item, which is just my updates. Let me get that pulled up really quick. So it's pretty much been entirely getting ready for the launch of, I'm calling it TrEATT. I've decided to call it TrEATT, unless anybody really objects. Speak now or forever hold your peace, because that's what we're going with. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
As my father used to say, I don't speak alphabet.
Okay.
So are people that you're talking to about this going to understand what TrEATT is, or, you know, when you send out your PSAs?
Sure. Well, yeah, well, we can get to that in the press release that we'll get to a little bit later. As far as that, I'm just calling it TrEATT. Transit everywhere all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much been the bulk of what I have been doing for the past, since we met last. So yeah, since we met last, it has been 24.25 hours that I've been working, so picking back up again. I did have one meeting that John actually put me in touch with, Leslie Marie Dresser. She is with the U Vanpool, actually. She was asking a little bit about kind of how to get involved with the legislative process, who to talk to as far as, well, just kind of how to get involved, how to talk to lawmakers, who to talk to, kind of some of the process there. And since we are kind of partnering with the U anyway, with Vanpools, just had a nice little conversation with her. I'm sure we will touch base more as things get going. And since today was the start of the session as well. But yeah, other than that, it really has just been almost entirely working on transit everywhere all the time. And getting that up and going, ideally with a launch time of tomorrow. I mean, technically it's up now, but I haven't done anything with it. And that is the upcoming activities as well for me. As far as by the numbers, let me just share this really quick. Go. So a little bit more movement. I was able to do a little bit more as far as social media is concerned. So 10 new Twitter followers. We lost one Facebook follower. Don't know why, but we did. Otherwise, TikTok, YouTube holding steady. General membership went up by 1, as did our mailing list. Our donors also went up by 2. Everything else is holding steady as far as that's concerned. I imagine once we start actually doing TrEATT and getting people signing up and saying, yes, I want to be a member, these numbers should probably start to increase, hopefully pretty rapidly. We'll see, but we will start getting this out into the world, and we will see if these numbers start to climb up. So that being said, are there any questions just on my activities? Like I said, it's pretty much just getting things ready. So questions, comments, concerns, anything on that front?
Just a little context to add on to what Curtis was talking about with the University of Utah. The person he spoke with is spearheading a big initiative around, or I would say not a big initiative, but a group of people that are very concerned about the parking situation at the U. And so the commuter services, she's trying to get a lot more information from commuter services, which happens to run a couple bus lines as well. So some interesting stuff going on at the university that could synergize well with what we're working on. So it's more about, I think she's more with like dealing with commuter services. She's not directly involved with the van pool, at least not at this point.
Well, she was talking about Van Pool quite a bit, so maybe that's what it was. But yeah, and she did mention the parking situation as well. It was funny. She was actually worried that she was stepping on our toes, and I'm just like, no, it's all good. We're all in this together. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we're all in it together. But yeah, she was like, we want to see what we can do about van pools. We want to see about parking, all of that good stuff. So she just kind of lumped it all together as part of the conversation.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's my activities, and then kind of looking forward, that is going to be the main thing is talking about TrEATT, and I'm sure there will be a lot of activities surrounding that as we roll that out. So that being said, it is now live, transit everywhere all the time. It is now live. I haven't advertised it at all, so don't get too excited. But we do have the webpage. It is up. The URL, utru.org/TrEATT. And then, yeah, it's kind of what we already discussed during the last meeting. Here's what they see when they pop on. Historically, the state of Utah, we went over all of this yesterday. If you fill it out, it says, yes, do we want to be a member? This is optional. It does default to I want to be a member, so we're a little sneaky that way. People can always unsubscribe if they want to, but they do have the option to say no. They also have the option to do that. They also have the option to share on Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. If they go and sign, oops, let me do that. But if they go through and actually sign the petition, so if we do test, hold on, test, and if you hit submit on this, test. We do have a CAPTCHA on this, so hopefully we're gonna at least not get too many spams. That's why we also want to make sure we're checking city, state, and zip, which is what I'll be doing on the back end. Which is also going to be part of what we will be doing with reaching out to specific policymakers and saying, hey, X number of people in your area said they were interested in what we're putting out there as far as advocating for more funding for transit from the legislature. But when you hit submit, if it does its thing, so it'll just pop up. Thank you for adding your name to the cause. Please be sure to spread the word. So you can again click on all these buttons, and then a nice little button for the PayPal as well, just to let you know. So they can go ahead and click that as well. So we'll capture all of that information. Like I said, it's on the back end. We will get all of that information. And then from down here, a little bit of a blurb about Transit Imagined. Then from there, talking about the 7-day challenge and just talking about, why we are doing it, teaching lawmakers and policymakers that using transit is important and why we feel it is important. And then once this actually starts to update, it will change to the challenge will start on May 20th, and we will keep you up to date on who has agreed to participate. As we get people participating, this will change. The verbiage will change slightly and change to here are the people who have agreed to participate. And then we'll start to fill in the laundry list of people, hopefully from there. Depending on how big it gets, and I hope it gets big, we may have to do a rolling 7-day challenge. So some people may do it on May 20th. Maybe some people may start on May 27th. We'll see, right? Because there is an education aspect to this where we want to kind of prep individuals and teach them how to ride the bus, how to ride the train if they haven't done it before. I know we've talked about it in the past. We don't want to set these people up for failure, but we do want to give them a real understanding of how the system works. And then following that up with, what are some of the shortfalls? What are some of the advantages and why investing in transit is important, why we need to do it. So that's the landing page. On the main home page, it's the first thing that pops up. So I've updated the home page for it to be the first thing you see when you click, and it'll take you right there, take you to the web page. Like I said, follow through on the steps. So are there any questions on this portion? Any thoughts, any ideas?
Is there any way to track where they are, point A to point B for the people using mass transit that take the challenge?
What do you mean?
Well, are they only using it to go back and forth to work? Are they using it to go 6 blocks? Are they using it to go to the grocery store and really use it 24/7 kind of thing?
So are you talking about the policymakers that we're challenging?
Yes.
I mean, it's the honor system, right?
Okay.
And so I think one of the things that we'll have to do, and especially I was thinking about this more and more as I was continually building the list, like to some degree, there will be people that won't be able to use it really at all, right? And so we might have to make some compromises and say, use it to the best of your ability. So does that mean you have to go to a park and ride? Maybe that's what it means, right? Or maybe you're just not able to use it at all. And we can have certainly discussions around that. Or maybe the train doesn't run on Sunday. That is also something that we have to consider, right? And so that is part of that discussion. That is part of the conversation of, okay, yeah, you had the option that, yeah, I could drive to where I needed to go on Sunday, but what about all those people that can't, right? What about the people that don't have that option and just can't complete a trip? What do they do, right? So yes, we would ideally, and that is how we are presenting it. Ideally, we want you to use it for 7 days, start to finish, 24/7 for those 7 days. Every single trip should start and end with transit. That being said, we understand that transit is not everywhere. And so if you can't do that, we ask that you use it to the best of your ability, and then give us your thoughts and feelings based off of that. So that's kind of what's going on the back end.
So I'd like to offer some suggestions because I've been a journalist for 50 years about how, I think really I'm looking at this from a perspective of an editor or somebody who might be interested in it. I think it would be really good to get either a celebrity or some high profile people involved, not just elected officials, but elected officials as high a level as possible. And not only get them involved, but sort of cover them the way you do, not just their reporting or their participation, but going with them on trips, or offering reporters the opportunity to. I mean, I can see a bunch of feature stories coming out about in various publications. It's good TV as well. You're sort of feeding the ambition of the politician or the good-heartedness of the celebrity. And that way this becomes something bigger, and it can be a good story actually, with video, with photographs. I should mention also there's a downside. If they have a bad experience, that could be really bad, and there are plenty of bad experiences out there. But I still think if we want to make this real, we need to, get Taylor Swift, or Kelsey, whoever, one of the two, on board. And on the political front, it was nice of Bill to volunteer as a member of the Park City Council. But I'm thinking more of somebody who's sort of either vulnerable politically, or ambitious politically, or progressive politically, whatever, to sort of carry the banner.
Can I piggyback on that? At the last Sugar House Community Council meeting, Joel Briscoe was there, and he is a proponent. He's the District 24 State House representative, and he is a proponent of free UTA for everybody. Do you all know who he is?
Yep.
Okay, and he mentioned that at one point, and he didn't say what year, and of course I couldn't get a hold of him today, but he said that the state had transferred money from UTA to UDOT and UTA has never gotten that money back.
Okay.
He-
So-
he-
I thought we were
well,
talking. I thought we were talking about this. This. This.
Yeah, I know, but would he be
And we're
somebody
talking
that
about
would be?
getting people to. We're encouraging people to ride, and publicly ride, and sort of represent, and
So would he be a good person to get
Yeah,
in
sounds like
contact
he's got-
with?
Sounds like he has his own issues, but I don't know. I'm thinking of somebody a little more. I'm thinking of somebody with a bigger splash.
sure. I mean, so there's two
So,
thoughts
Ron?
to that. Oh, go ahead, Randy.
I have a few contacts that I may be able to approach, and they're pretty high profile. So we know Brad Wilson. He's running for speaker. He's running for Congress, for senator thing or something. And then Carlos Braceros is a friend of mine he's the head of UDOT. And I was just volunteering with Aaron Mendenhall's re-election campaign and developed a pretty good relationship, so I could talk to them. And then Lou Kramer is the it's a president of my company, and he's a UDOT commissioner. So all of those guys, I think I could arm wrestle into doing something.
Well, if we do get, yeah, I think, but if we get somebody who's really well known, it could be a celebrity or whatever, maybe an athlete, maybe a Utah Jazz member or something like that, then I would certainly help on writing the story and doing the work to make it into something bigger. What we're trying to do is draw a lot of attention to this, so the bigger the
Right.
better. And the way to do that is to, these guys, people volunteer, the jazz players, etc., volunteer for a lot of stuff. It might be kind of fun. At any rate, I think people should just keep their antennas out there, alert, and see if we can come up with one or two interesting people who people follow, who, anyway, that's my point.
No, and I don't disagree. I just don't have contacts to all of those people, right? So I think I think it's twofold, right? We've gone through. Thank you to everyone, by the way, that helped fill in this list. It is much appreciated. I think at the end of the day, we had 1,240 people. Now we don't have contact for all of them, but we can certainly kind of work through as many as we can. And one of the things that I intend to do as a broad-based general statement is start emailing and contacting these individuals and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, and do you want to get involved? But if there are specific individuals on this list, or I can also start another sheet, another tab of, I know this person, I know that person that I think would also be good to participate, and I will or have reached out, go for it. I don't want to necessarily restrict it to policymakers. It's just that policymakers are the most obvious kind of starting point, right? So when we talk about like the Joel Briscoes of the world or the Aaron Mendenhalls, like, yes, if we have those personal connections, we should make a more personalized outreach to those individuals.
Well,
But if we don't,
let's divide this into two things. Okay. One is we're trying to affect policy, and that's why you've got the policy people. The other division is that you're trying to publicize and promote transit. Those are two different things. And to do that, the promoting transit, using this to promote transit, having people answer the challenge and encouraging others to answer the challenge, you need somebody with a name. We can figure it out. People know people. But you mentioned a mayor, for example. I'd like to see, how many members of the UTA board actually ride that might be an amusing anecdote. Or riding it with the head of the UTA. He lives in Bountiful, Jay Fox. I have a kind of a personal relationship with him. It might be fun just to do it through the eyes of the guy that runs the place. I'm just thinking in terms of classic newspaper news story angles, okay?
Sure.
And those are two different things. One is policy, one is promotion.
Right. No, and I agree. It's just we need to know who we know, and we need to work who we work. And so the list that has been put together is a good general list of policymakers that are available, and contact information is available. Some of the names that have been said already are on this list. I know they are. So there's no reason we can't pull some names from that list and say, I'm going to personally contact this person. I'm going to reach out to this person and say,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But if there are names that aren't on this list that we also think are good, let's get them added, maybe on a separate tab, but let's start working those individuals. Because kind of the impetus of all of this was, yes, we want to affect policy change. So that's why we have policymakers, but we do want to draw attention, like you said, Ron. And so we want to make sure that we educate people on how to use the train. Are they going to have some bad experiences? Maybe. We can't guarantee that they won't.
All right.
But that's why we have to talk about it and be honest about it.
Let's think creatively. How about the church?
What church?
What church?
The big one.
Please. Please.
But that being said, I mean, there are various classical leaders across the state, right?
Hello, theocracy. I mean, no, the church would be, I think that there's somebody there, one of the top officials, a well-known person, might be thrilled to do it.
Sure.
Any rate, I don't want to go on and on about this. It's just that we're trying to get maximum bang for the buck out of this, okay? Policy is sort of quiet and subtle and slow-moving waters.
Right.
Publicity is a different thing.
Right. Well, and I mean, truth be told, with even the petition signing that is taking place during the legislative session, it is not going to, even if we do magically get what we want, the legislative session will be over by the time the 7-day challenge has started. And so, it's more bolstering people up, getting them excited, talking about transit, and then we have something to build on for next legislative session, right?
I think
so.
I thought the idea that your boss, for example, you mentioned your boss, who I guess is at Colliers, is that right? I kind of like that idea because you guys are into downtown real estate, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea because there's a lot at stake on commuting as the workplace has changed. You can tell us more about that, but I mean, it would be interesting, somebody who has an actual stake in downtown real estate, who's involved in it, who knows it, and who would benefit from a good transit system, participating. So I think that's kind of a cool idea. I could see it being built into a story. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at perspective.
Ron, I have a question. Do you think anybody in the healthcare leadership would be the right profile for this? I could potentially get some people in the C-suite there. I have some connections.
How about what's his name? The guy that Kopecky.
Oh, Kopecky. Yeah.
No, really. I think yes. Or the president of the university or something. Yes, I do. I think.
Yeah, I can definitely take a look and make some inquiries on that side. And I think it's a good idea for the board members to think about just people in your personal network that would make more of a publicity splash than a policy splash. And just try and work our networks over the next before this happens and see what we can scratch up.
Yeah, I mean the nice thing is technically the challenge does not start until May, right? So we have time, but we want to start generating that publicity. We want to start generating some excitement. Going back to kind of what the plan was to begin with, the whole point of what is taking place right now really is kind of getting the petitions in place, getting organizations on board, reaching out to policymakers, the policymakers that say, yes, already sign me up, we're good to go. Great. I can start working with them and start reaching out and training them and then touching base with them from time to time. And then as we get a little bit closer, we start ramping that up more and more, right? So we have time. We've purposely built in time. And in the meantime, we continue to build excitement. We continue to get that petition gathering going on. And then we convert all of that into stories. We convert all of that into press releases, all of that good stuff. This is the long haul. This is going to be months worth of activity, culminating in the 7-day challenge that we will then, based off of the petitions, we can start working and build our base so that this time next year when the legislative session happens, we have more to build on and we can basically restart this process a little bit earlier. And we'll learn what we learn and kind of take it from there. But Mike, I saw that you had to hop off. So if you need to, I don't think we have anything pressing as far as vote wise is concerned, and we'd still have a quorum, just FYI. So yeah, that's where we're at on that. The one thing I did want to discuss.
Excuse me, I'm gonna hop off a second to get another beer, but I'll be right back.
Good call, good call. The other thing that I just did want to pop over, just related to this, is the press release I wanted to get out tomorrow. I sent this out in an email. It was, I believe, this morning, actually. So, John, I took liberties with you. Chris, if you were on the line, I know you're not, but I'll reach out just to be safe. It was great, these words that you said, John. I appreciate them very much. And this was you. And it sounds like you, at least. And then Chris, I'll reach out to very quickly, but I was just wanting to see if anybody.
When are you sending, Curtis, when are you sending this out?
I would like to send this out tomorrow.
And
Okay, I just have to check with the press office around like whether I'm allowed to use my title or not. And so let me just double check before you send it out. If you just get rid of like my title, then it's okay. That you can say Dr. John Pearson. But if you want to include that, if it's important, then I would have to check with them.
I just liked it, but
yeah, no, I mean it's like add some social cachet to like our organization. I get it, but
so I'll wait for a minute. Yeah, I mean it's I can stay in a hold pattern for a little bit on this. Like I'd like to get this out sooner rather than later, but I mean the difference between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. is not going to be a huge difference.
I should have an answer for you pretty early in the morning. Yeah, before noon for sure.
So if we have to do that, and if I have
mute this, I'm going to mute this as I open it. Okay.
Thank you. You can crack it. It's fine. But thoughts, feelings, anything in particular as far as
who was it being sent to?
Our press conferences. Roan did a great job of putting together quite a few contacts. I've put together a few contacts as well. But yeah, we're just basically going to blast this out to as many people as we can.
And you don't think it's too long?
It's 500 words. It's a touch on the long side. I will grant you that. They like to keep it around 354.
It's not too long.
Yeah.
I do have one.
I mean, question. It's under a page. Yeah.
I have a question, actually. I think it's phrased really well, and I don't really object to it. But since transit, as it now exists with its ridership it now has, as I'll discuss later, is a net polluter. John's line about the pollution coming out of tailpipes doesn't stop at the border. I just think we need to be conscious of the fact that until we increase ridership or change the equipment used, that we're actually contributing to the pollution as opposed to solving it.
Sure. Well, and yes, that is true, right? But let's get more people out of cars. And the overall idea of the press release is like, let's get more people into them, right? So, or into buses so that it isn't a net polluter. If someone really wants to attack us on it, they're going to anyway. They're not going to be friendly towards us if that's the thing that they're going to nitpick on this, in my opinion.
I don't think they ever would.
Yeah. Would. So I'm not too worried about that one. But I do see your point. I understand what you're saying. And then, the snarky response is great. I'm glad you agree that more people need to ride the train or take the bus, and you agree that we should switch to electric. We're in agreement. Thank you. Right. That's the snarky response. But
I think that's kind of an important point, is that if UTA is a net polluter right now, but if they got more people, it would go the other way.
Mhm. And it's
nice to push that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something worth discussing. It's just not going to fit in a press release, right? We don't have all the room.
Yeah.
I like the
yes.
way it's phrased. I'm almost sorry I brought it up. I just we need to be conscious of this issue.
Right.
And also lobby for it, and with our conversations with you when they're purchasing buses, things like that. We need to be pushing for electric.
Yeah, for sure. I think for the purpose of this press release, this is fine. I like the quote as well. And I'll be able to get back to you tomorrow, Curtis, about how to phrase that. In terms of the net pollution stuff, it's 100% important that it's a sign, to me, it's a sign or a symptom that the transit system is broken and unhealthy. Right. So it's an unhealthy, and that we know this in the United States, is like our public transportation infrastructure is dramatically underfunded and very unhealthy if you were to look at how it's run. And so thinking about, how we move that issue and discuss that in a way that we can use to our advantage to pressure the UTA to clean up their act around these things, and also impress the simultaneous thing that ridership is what makes a difference. I think that's really important. Not for this press release, and I don't think what we say is necessarily contradicting anything around that or setting us up for trouble. But I think Roland's point is well heard, that we need to be discussing that in some manner, or be ready to prepare to discuss it and try and use it as a pressure point against the UTA.
Mike, you got your hand up?
Yeah, on the topic of pollution, one of the things that I keep hearing, particularly from Senate President Stuart Adams, is that one of the reasons why we need to expand highways is because it causes more pollution to have cars stuck in traffic. And that is the biggest pot of malarkey, to quote Biden, that, it's, so when I think about pollution issues with UTA, it doesn't even really raise a candle to just the overall problem of cars, and the fact that building more highways is just a temporary Band-Aid, and we will always end up with more congestion. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents worth, and I'm supposed to be on another meeting right now, but no one's gotten me the link for it. So
Mike, Mike, your point is well taken, but they're not Band-Aids. They're actually wounds, the new highways, right?
Exactly.
Like at this point. So it's new wounds on planet Earth that we need to stop creating on ourselves as we move forward.
It's like having someone who has lost a limb and is bleeding out and trying to stick a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, exactly. Band-Aid on a grenade wound. And we just keep piling on. Okay, well, aside from just getting your title squared away, John, I will go ahead and plan on rolling this out tomorrow. Worst comes to worst, I can change the date again. Let's see, tomorrow is, what is tomorrow? Wednesday. So Thursday is an okay day to send out a press release. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get it out. Again, we have time to work with. It's all good. Even if we can't get it out by Thursday, I don't want to push it out until probably next Tuesday. Friday is a dead day. You don't want to send it out on Friday. Monday isn't great, but we can. But yeah, again, we've got time. This is our timing, our budget. We can kind of work with it from here. So I'll just wait to hear back, and we will get that out and really start pushing it out. So if that's where we're at on that, because I do also just need to get the thumbs up from Chris as well, just to make sure his quote that he was so eloquent on, he's also okay with. So cool. All right. Let's see. Got too many tabs. What is next on the old agenda? Okay, yes, fundraising discussion. All right, so I want to just kind of bring up general fundraising discussion kind of as we are in the new year. This is mostly intended to be kind of an open door discussion and idea of where we would like to start going with fundraising in the coming year. Donations are great from our pool, our list of people. However, it is not enough, as we all know. We have been kind of in our individual conversations I've had with y'all. We all agree that there's more and better ways to get money in. We also agree that, frankly, I don't have all the time in the world to do it. Otherwise, I would, right? And so I kind of want to start a general discussion, brainstorming ideas, and frankly, start assigning some duties for people to really start to take on and just kind of see where we are at, what people's stomach is for fundraising. So that being said, one of the things that I've principally been doing and should be able to start getting back to, hopefully, unless the TrEATT thing blows up and really takes up a ton of my time, is continue to get back to grant writing. My grant writing has been primarily focused on the CAT program and Transit Year Imagined. I don't think I can fundraise around TrEATT because there's not much to fundraise around, to be honest. But aside from that, I will open the floor to general ideas for now, and then also say, let's start thinking about it. I kind of want to keep this on the agenda going forward, just that it's on top of mind. So I will open it up. What are people's thoughts, feelings, ideas, suggestions?
What are the neighborhoods? What are the areas that are most critically dependent on transit? The west side?
Yeah, the west side primarily, university neighborhoods, the university neighborhood, I should say. Avenues fairly dependent. I wouldn't say dependent, but they do use it quite frequently. Other areas, Taylorsville tends to be pretty high. Kearns, for what it is, for what they have access to anyway, is fairly high the last time I checked. Those are some of the ones that kind of spring to mind, top of mind. Kind of the Central City core area, especially with some of the growth that's going on out there along North Temple, that's been picking up. Yeah, some of those are some of the top ones that come to my mind.
I think Davis County is.
Davis County is rough. They are largely commuters. There's not a lot of point A to point B within Davis County. People who use transit in Davis County are usually leaving Davis County for the day and then coming back. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's not necessarily community focused quite the same way that, say, Rose Park is or Central City is. Not saying you're wrong, just different type of transit user.
So when I was I took the 9 a few times, and I was out on the west side. It was really a very moving experience to see. I wrote about it as being kind of a Richard Scarry children's book moment, but I mean, to see people who are thrilled with transportation and who really depend on it, seems to me that there may be some aspect of that that would impress donors. In other words, they donate to other things, but if they knew that, if we could point to specific ways in which, I mean, to me, it was just watching these people do, school children on the west side. They have this ride on demand program that seems to be increasing. I think it's increasing extracurricular activities on people who couldn't otherwise do it. There's a lot of things, sort of human interest people who are not very privileged benefiting that might have some at least sympathetic fundraising potential.
They don't forget though that the Salt Lake City School District, I'm not sure the youngest part of the age, but up through high school has free passes for all the students and a lot of their families also.
Right, that we're talking about extracurricular stuff that they couldn't access normally, after hour stuff where they can just call a car and get someplace. And that's made a huge difference on the, I know, on the west side. The other thing, Randy, I don't know, you know, the downtown people who are sort of historic beneficiaries of public transit, shouldn't some of these, like downtown developers, I mean, like your company, I don't know, shouldn't they, shouldn't City Creek development, et cetera, those people, don't they have a vested interest in it? Wouldn't they be potential donors?
What are they donating for?
They're donating for the promotion of transit that gets people to their places, to their workplaces and to their shopping centers.
Well, it's a little bit different though. It's not promotion of using transit. It's promotion of the rider's experience, right? So like Zion's Bank and the church and a lot of the downtown people in the University of Utah, they all have users that would benefit from our what's the word for it? Our advocacy.
Well, you know, the usual thing that you go for on fundraising is people who benefit from increased transit. You know, population centers, business centers, the medical complex. I mean, the university is classic, although it's almost difficult to get around there. There's so many buses, but.
So I'm still not understanding. If somebody donates $250,000 to Utah Transit Riders, what is Utah Transit Riders going to do with that money?
Promote public transit and promote the increase in public transit. Promote the access to public transit among people who are disadvantaged.
So you're going to be giving bus passes out?
No.
So to answer that question, to kind of answer that question in short, some of the things, and it depends on kind of, this is why we've had a couple of the programs and initiatives that we've been working on, is to give them something to kind of get behind, right? So the CAT initiative, the community advocacy, for example, if someone were to give $250,000 to that, what they are doing is they are giving UTRU money to then turn around and go out and teach people how to advocate for better transit, right? Going out and teaching people who their policymakers are, teaching them how to speak to lawmakers, all that sort of stuff, in hopes of getting better transit. That's kind of the principal one that springs to mind. That being said, if someone dangled $250,000 and they said, hey, we want you to focus on something in particular, yes, we can certainly do that. The other example is like the van pool program and UCare and that aspect of it, where we are doing rider training and teaching people how to use the system. In this particular case, how to use the system in order to get to the University of Utah. With that, there is also a educational aspect to it, as well as the study that is going on behind it, basically seeing how people's habits change. We're not necessarily part of that per se, but we're promoting it. And so kind of depending on the nature of what specifically someone wants to donate to, that's what it's going towards. But broad-based, yes, it is. If someone is donating to us, they are donating for the advocacy, the promotion of transit in the state of Utah, make it to make a transit affirming culture that is reliable, affordable, accessible, that is available, and the advocacy that is around that through our programs, through building the programs, through building our membership, be that, again, depending on the nature of the specifics, advertising, growing the community, raising awareness, all of the above, right? That's the idea behind it. So to answer your question, if someone is giving us money, yes, we can get into the weeds, but broad-based, it is for the advocacy and promotion of transit in the state of Utah. At least that's the spiel I give when people ask.
Well, I've had a couple of pretty successful nonprofits, and you just remember the people who give money are rich people or rich institutions, and they either do it out of guilt, or mine have been journalism nonprofits, but generally speaking, they either believe in the role that journalism plays that's been, or they benefit from good journalism. That's less like in journalism than it is in public transit. But I think a case can be made that you can make a contribution to a public transit advocacy organization that will ultimately benefit disadvantaged people by increased service and by the focus of our organization on disadvantaged people.
Yeah, and the thing is, transit touches has a lot of different touch points for a lot of different people. There are the people that, yes, need it. There are the people that use it because they want to. There are the people that use it because they care about the environment. There are the people that use it because it's convenient. There are people that use it out of guilt sometimes, right? There are the people that want to use it but can't. And so there's a lot of different touch points, and depending on the individual and all of those sorts of motivations behind them, there are a lot of different ways that we can kind of address that. Is it part of an overall hope of improving their community and making their community more accessible? Transit, in my opinion, is the way that we get around, or transportation obviously is the way we get around. We need to get from point A to point B. We want to make it as easy as possible. We are an organization that advocates for making it as easy as possible. And then there are all the offshoots of the benefits of making it as easy as possible. Pollution, affordability, environment, community, greater sense of community, all of it, depending on the angle we want to take with the individual that we are talking to or organization that we are talking to, it kind of depends, right? But there are a lot of different touch points that we can use depending on what angle we're attacking it from.
And on the topic of and thanks Curtis for that. And on the topic of speaking with people and looking at donations, last month we talked about for the board, speaking to 3 people this month. And I'm wondering how that went for people, what their experiences were. For me, I'm not used to asking people for money in this way. I write grants, but to their face or / text, and figuring out ways to approach them was a bit of a challenge. Even if they have the capability to donate something in like the 1 to 10,000 range, which is what I would hope for among some of my colleagues. I was wondering how it went for everybody else out there this month on that front.
I didn't do anything, so.
So once again, every month I'm going to ask this question. I'm hoping that we could speak to 3 people during the month about potentially donating. And it's going to be uncomfortable, I think, for some of us. But I think the more we talk, it just gets us in the habit of talking about the organization and the work we do, as well as getting over that initial conversations to have to say like, hey, we are looking to raise funds. We have a part-time director. We want to make him full-time. That's one thing that I said. And there's things we would do. We want to have this conversation around how bad the inversion was last month and what could we be doing better about this stuff. And so building that relationship with people and advocating for the group, but also getting over the fact that you have to ask them for something. And that's like the hardest, that's what I thought was the hardest part for me. And so I just want to encourage, and I was kind of able to do it. And I've gotten some maybes, no big checks have cleared the bank. Have they, Curtis? I don't think so, right?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
So, but, I just want to encourage people to try and get out on a limb for the organization that you're a board member of, and, try and advocate to try and have those 3 conversations where you say, can you think about donating? Would you like to donate to people in your network?
And does anybody say to you, what are you going to do with my money?
Yeah, people ask. Yeah, of course. And you explain what the organization does, and that we need staff in order to have an effective organization that can communicate to the public about the importance of public transit, about how public transit's underfunded in the state of Utah, about how it could benefit our communities and our air quality. And you go on to talk about specific stuff like the van pool program we have going on, or some other stuff that Curtis is working on as well, like TrEATT, et cetera, in the CAP program. And so, getting more familiar with the programs that Curtis is trying to get started, that the organization is trying to get started as ways to show them examples. Do you think that, Anne, is that like, in your experience, not good enough for people? Or are they more like, well, what the heck? You guys are just a bunch of jokers that meet on Zoom once in a while, or Teams rather.
Well, I was under the impression that when we went and spoke to people that, for me, I thought it was a volunteer thing. So it's not like we have anything to hand out to people that I know of to say, this is what, Utah Transit does. Like if I went to a community council meeting and wanted to talk about it,
So that actually brings up a good point. So we do have materials, we have things, and so maybe the first step, maybe we were a touch premature last month. So maybe what I'm thinking, and I'm just spitballing, is couple of different things, depending on maybe every individual's need. I'd be more than happy to maybe sit down on an individual basis and kind of go through some sort of making the ask, right? How to kind of have those conversations. I'm rusty on it. I've kind of given some of those trainings to political donors in the past, like when I've worked on political campaigns. So I'd have to brush up a bit on it. But if you feel like that is a stopping point for you, I'd be more than happy to kind of schedule some time on an individual basis and sit down and talk with you, kind of go through some strategies and thoughts and feelings, and kind of do a crash course. So that's thought number 1. Thought number 2 is, and to your point, we do have materials. We do have things that it sounds like you would like to have access to and that you would like to have. So if that's the case, like if there's something specific that you were looking for, if you're looking for a flyer, a brochure, pamphlet, business cards, something like that, I can certainly get those to you, either in digital form, or we can get them printed and sent over to you, whatever works for you. If you feel like that would be helpful for you, I'm happy to do that as well. Other things that might be helpful, it's kind of part of the same thing, how to curate the list and how to make that first call. So depending on where you feel you are at, and this is to everybody, depending on where you feel you are at or what you need, let me help you, right? Let me participate and let me help you do that so that you can then turn around and feel more comfortable making the ask. Very few people actually enjoy making the ask. There's a few people that do. For the most part, it's uncomfortable. For the most part, people don't like doing it. But if we can, if I can kind of sit down with you and you all, and at least kind of run through scenarios, give you ideas, talk about things you might word differently, all of that good stuff. We can kind of sit down and make it a little bit easier. If you need materials to help you out or just make it easier, I can provide those for you as well. We have them, they are available. It's just that we don't have, if you haven't asked for them, I haven't really sent them out. So that's where we're at on that. So
yeah. Curtis, that would be a great to do for your month, to get like some kind of email with a set of easy resources and tips around how to ask people. So, and to just make sure we're clear, this is absolutely a volunteer position. The board membership is. Curtis is an employee, and we want to hire more employees. We want Curtis to be full time. We want them to have benefits, ideally, as well. For we need to make our organization come to life. And that's what being on the board is about, is going, is contributing to the strategic direction of the organization, serving as a sounding board, check and balance, as well as what the organization's up to. But also fundraising is a big responsibility of the board, and something that I think, we're all, I think, I'm just speaking for myself, it's something I'm learning how to do and I'm not great at outside of the academic realm, but that's something I'm trying to improve, and I think Curtis has some great suggestions and resources on how all of us could learn together as a group. And we're all kind of newbies at this, but we're going to get good and we're going to raise a lot of money and we're going to have a really effective organization. It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
Yeah,
might take a few years.
When I've had to ask for money in the past, it's nice to have even something that we're all saying basically the same, of
Sure.
maybe bullet points to point
Sure.
out to people. Like, for instance, when there are free days offered by UTA, which is rare, but they have them, ridership always increases.
Mhm.
That there is less delinquency at schools since the Salt Lake City District has given out those passes. And there's also a better participation with families going to parent-teacher conferences and back to school nights and things like that, because they now can get to the school. And just, to have an outline
Sure.
of something to speak to people.
Sure. No, and I think that's a good point. I'm more than happy to put together some like I said, materials, talking points, to your point, Anne. I can start putting that stuff together. That is not difficult. And I think we can all agree that there's a benefit to that. So, I can start putting that stuff together for you. And again, if there's anything in particular, if anybody wants to hop on a call, we can also do that as well, go through some scenarios, all that good stuff. So, like I said, I wasn't expecting us all to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do it right now. But I did want to start getting the discussion going on it, get us all thinking about how we can hopefully start bringing in more funds one way or another into the organization. Okay, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about as far as fundraising is concerned?
I don't know if this is with fundraising or not, but part of my, this is only my second meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure what I can just do on my own. Like, can I call Landon for the Sugar House Community Council and say, I'd like to, this is who I am, this is who I represent, and I'd like to speak at the community council meeting. Can I just do that, or do I need to get permission to do that from somebody?
No, I mean, you are more than welcome to do that. The only thing I'd say is, like, if you do that, let me know so I can get you materials, right? So I can get you sign-up sheets and flyers and that sort of stuff, right? But if you're at a meeting, for example, and it's obviously relevant to stand up and say, hey, I'm on the executive board of UTRU, which is the Utah Transit Writers Union, and I just want to say X, Y, and Z, then you can absolutely do that, right? Like, it's the one rule of thumb is make sure that you're representing UTRU to the best of your ability, right? And that's pretty much
part
it.
of my thing with the materials.
Right.
just on a learning curve, I guess.
Sure, sure. So, and if that's the case, then yes, I'm more than happy to put that together so that you can have some talking points to help you out on that. I can definitely put that together for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else as far as fundraising is concerned? Otherwise, we're bleeding into the open forum a little bit. But does anybody have, we are at 7. So as per usual, we're a little over. It's the way it goes. But does anybody have anything that they want to talk about specifically in the open forum?
I do.
Go for it.
Well, I'm not going to talk forever about it. I just sent an email to everybody with the things that I already sent you, Curtis, but basically, I can't help myself. I'm a reporter. Nobody is covering UTA at all, 0 coverage. And so I've taken it on myself to look at some numbers, and I've sent them to you, but we should know where transit sits and national, where it sits nationally and locally. And so the ridership numbers are really kind of disturbing. That I just got the November ridership numbers, and buses are back up to the pre-COVID levels. However, light rail and commuter buses are pretty terrible, and we should know about that. We should think about it, and we should maybe think about emphasizing bus ridership. Air quality, I've already gone through this a little bit, but if you look at the email I sent you, I got some pretty good data on the contributions to air quality that we're not making in public transit, and compared them at least to per passenger rates of private vehicles. So that's also there. There's been an issue about the state income tax. The governor is fiddling with the idea of removing state income tax. That'll put a lot more pressure on the main source of income for things like UTA, which is sales tax. I was hoping that Chris would be here to explain maybe where I'm wrong on this point, but I think just looking at it as a reporter, looking at it forward, I can see some real problems. If they go to the point of removing state income tax, then you're limited to sales tax and property tax. Income tax right now is dedicated entirely to schools and certain special interests, special programs. If they eliminate income tax, that has to be taken up in other ways, sales tax or property tax. That's going to put pressure on the people who receive sales tax. So far, UTA has had a real free ride. They get whatever, $670 million a year from sales tax. But if you're more dependent on sales tax, if other programs, including education, are dependent on sales tax, then you're going to have a shift of attention. You're going to start having real rough scrutiny or tough scrutiny of how UTA is spending its money in other transit agencies. So anyway, I think we need to keep an eye on it. I'm actually quite interested in Chris's analysis of it, since he's a sales tax expert. I really don't know the answer, but it just seemed to me that it was a troublesome trend in terms of funding. Finally, there's one thing that I would like to talk to the board about generally, and that is that after that op-ed piece that I wrote, the union that represents most of the drivers is interested in having a lunch, basically about our shared interests. I want to go, but I'm hoping that Curtis wants to go. Anybody else that wants to go, I think it could be interesting. I think we could explore some shared interests, and it would be nice to show them that we have their back. Chris has written about the need to increase salaries of drivers. I've written about the threat to the safety of drivers. If they feel we're in their corner, then we can work with them, and we can work together on a lot of issues. It seems to me that's worthwhile. So anybody who wants to, I can arrange and pay for the lunch. If you and anybody has a suggested venue, that would be good. But so, anybody interested?
Yeah. I mean, I know I'd definitely be interested. So yeah, let me know. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'd be happy to go. I'd love to go.
Yeah, I think it's,
Me too.
you know, they were very distressful before. They felt like they'd been burned, and they loved the article that I did. So I think we can work together with them.
Great.
And I was hoping that Randy could sort of tell us about, you know, one of the concerns about ridership is that it looks like the forms of transportation that serve the commuting communities are the ones that are having the worst performance. Buses serve the whole area, and they're back up to pre-COVID levels, but commuter trains and light rail are way below. And I'm just wondering what kind of pressures people are feeling downtown and in commuter centers, and how we should react to it.
So, you know, I heard you say that, and my experience is not bear that out. I ride tracks all the time and front runner once in a while, but buses and tracks all the time, and tracks is full.
Mm-hmm.
It's full, but the stats from the transit, federal transit stats show that it's down 65% or whatever. From light rail is down, let's see, light rail down 65% from November 2019. Down to 65% of the traffic they had in 2019. And commuter buses are down even more. Frontliner, you know, is doing a little bit better. So I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the, is it Mark Twain or somebody that said there's 3 kinds of lies? I don't believe that for 1 second. The tracks is not down 65%.
It's not down 65%. It's down to 65% of what it was in November of 2019.
Has there been some service cuts in terms of frequency compared to 2019, where you
That's
get
probably-
higher,
Yeah.
right,
I
and less
wonder.
trains running? I wonder, because you could have the same number of people subjectively as you're on the train, feeling like it
Yes.
is packed with less transit running.
No, that's a good question, and the answer is almost all of the different forms are running at about the same level, 85% of what they were in 2019. So the numbers are, it's apples and apples. In other words, buses are running at 85% of what they were in 2019, and they're now reaching the same levels they had in 2019. And so are the others, but they're just not performing as well. I was hoping for an explanation. Now you have you ride light rail, Randy, and I mean you're having a visual impression of it. I don't know where the federal stats are wrong, but those are solid numbers.
Is there anybody else who's
I don't know.
kind of subjective before and after COVID experience? I wasn't riding the transit in this city before COVID, although I do know nationally, statistically, as well as from friends of mine back east in Boston and New York, that they're also really struggling. The MBTA is struggling with a lot of maintenance, and the New York subway, a lot of people are feeling less safe on it than they used to. You know, and those are subjective things, but I do know numbers wise, nationwide, there's struggles with transportation.
No, nationwide, it's true. There's some places doing better than others, but UTA, for example, is doing really poorly, except on buses.
That's interesting. Buses being, and so you said not commuter buses and not tracks, but these are regular non-commuter, like kind of 15-minute, like the 1 and the 2 and the 2 and stuff.
Yeah, like the city buses that we're talking about, regular buses are you know, they're doing great. If you were just to judge transit based on them, you could write a story saying finally, we're back up to pre-COVID levels.
Yeah, look at that. So
We're
yeah,
not
this is the
We're not up to pre-COVID levels in terms of quantity of service because we're still at 85% of what we were. But in terms of, you know, getting those numbers back up, buses are doing really well.
yeah. So I mean, this is just what I pulled up from the UTA website. So yeah, like December of 2017, 61,000 fixed bus routes, 57,000, which pretty much is a rebound at this point, I would consider. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit down, but you can obviously see where they were from. But if we go to, well, streetcar is roughly the same, but it's relatively small portion. But light rail is struggling from December of 2019, December of 2018, as you can see. This is commuter rail,
Also struggling.
better, but still struggling. But yeah, fixed bus, regular bus, catching up. It's not quite there. Express bus way down. I think that that's been service cuts largely, I'd have to imagine. UVX, that's probably just because they've increased service. Ski bus, route deviations, so flex buses. I wonder if that's, yeah, interesting. So
Flex bus is also a
route.
number is 2,000, right? So
Yeah,
that's a much smaller
it's
base
small,
dealing
small
from.
number, yeah. But it's actually the highest performing.
Kind of interesting.
That's kind of interesting.
What's interesting
fixed
about that,
bus-
Curtis, is that it speaks to this, maybe there's this demand out there that the flex, when people tap into it, because I've used the flex bus up here in the avenues, that it's more of a kind of Uber-like service if you arrange it ahead of time. You know, you can get picked up at your house, dropped off at your house, and that might be what people are more looking for. I know at the U that we have 20%, if something between 10 and 20% of people shifted off of commuting to work from home. And of that percent, a large percentage of them were using tracks.
Yeah, I have to wonder if that's part of it.
You know,
on demand continues to grow in popularity. I mean, the number is still small, 1,700, but
Yeah.
it's continuing to grow. But yeah, system-wide weekday boardings still, you know, low compared to, and I think I have to wonder if it is related to tracks and people not commuting as much. I think it's doing better, but
we have a changing workplace. We need, you know,
Yeah.
these are symptoms of that.
and I don't know if you saw my, I know we got to wrap up. It's 15 minutes over, but I remember maybe you had some other stuff that you wanted to add. But Anne, I just wanted to ask you if you could send me that stuff about the school bus passes increasing, decreasing truancy rates and improving attendance. That'd be great. That was really interesting fact. It really speaks to the social dynamics, like social determinants of health, right, when it comes to like transportation. So it's pretty fascinating that it can affect people's lives over such a long trajectory. Getting them to school and graduating school has really big downstream impacts. And so it's interesting that a bus pass does that.
Yeah, it has fundraising potential too. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
all right, unless there's anything else that is super pressing, it's 7:15, so I'm willing to call it a meeting if everybody else is. Non-debatable. All right, well,
Question for Mike. Do we know when the agenda of the city council is going to do the citywide transportation plan?
That I don't know.
I know you
Because-
participated in it.
Yeah, I participated in it. I also serve on the planning commission, so we approved it and sent it on to city council. I haven't really paid any attention to it, other than I'm confident that the city council is going to go ahead and approve it.
But it's not on the, I know it wasn't on the January agenda, so it's maybe on February, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
cool. All right, well, I will, so specifically, John, I will wait to just get the thumbs up from you for that one particular aspect of your title. And then I'll start putting together some talking points for everybody as far as fundraising is concerned. And then from there, we'll get the presser out, hopefully tomorrow afternoon at the latest. We'll take it from there. But yeah, if you need anything in the meantime, let me know and keep an eye out. So cool. Anything else? Otherwise,
Just
we'll call it.
would
Oh,
you
go
send
ahead.
Curtis? Would you send us a very sad picture of you that we can distribute, saying, "Please
Yes.
pay this man."
Yes, just the saddest photo possible. I will be sure to drum one up for you.
This man needs to go full time.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
and,
everybody.
We will be in touch.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
See you later.
So long.